As Amelia and Alexander's love story blossomed, their lives seemed to take on a fairy tale quality. Alexander, determined to ensure Clara's full recovery, arranged for her to be transferred to one of the best hospitals in the country. Under expert care, Clara's health improved rapidly, and soon, her laughter filled the room once again. Seeing her mother's strength restored brought tears of joy to Amelia's eyes. One balmy evening, as they strolled through Alexander's sprawling gardens, he turned to her, his gaze warm and unwavering.
Amelia, you've given so much of yourself. You don't need to work for me anymore.
Amelia hesitated, her heart torn.
I'll step back, but I'd like to help the staff when I can. They've become like family to me.
Alexander smiled, his admiration for her growing with every word she spoke.
You never cease to amaze me.
He said, pulling her close. Their happiness was palpable, and in celebration of the new chapter in their lives, Alexander planned a surprise vacation to Santorini. The island's sun-kissed beauty was breathtaking, with whitewashed buildings perched on cliffs overlooking the azure sea. Amelia felt like she was in a dream as they explored quaint villages, sampled delicious Mediterranean dishes, and shared laughter so infectious it made passerbys smile. One golden afternoon, as they lounged at an exclusive beachfront cafe, enjoying the gentle sea breeze, an unexpected figure disrupted their idyllic moment. A stunning woman with striking features, dressed in a designer outfit and oversized sunglasses, approached their table with a confident stride.
Alexander, it's been far too long.
Alexander's jaw tightened, his posture stiffening as he nodded curtly.
Vanessa.
Vanessa's eyes swept over Amelia, her smile faltering as a glint of disdain flashed across her face.
And who is this? I must admit, I'm surprised. I always thought you had better taste, Alexander. Or have your standards shifted since our engagement?
The words hit like a slap. Amelia's heart sank, and her fingers curled into fists beneath the table. She glanced at Alexander, searching his face for answers, but his expression was unreadable. Vanessa, satisfied with the tension she'd created, flipped her hair dramatically and sauntered away, leaving behind an air of smug satisfaction. Amelia turned to Alexander, her voice trembling with a mix of hurt and anger.
Engagement. Alexander, is there something you forgot to mention?
Alexander sighed deeply, running a hand over his hair. His usual composure seemed to crack under the weight of the moment.
Amelia, I promise you it's not what it seems. Vanessa is complicated.
Complicated? Do you think that's enough of an explanation after what she just said?
The peaceful Santorini afternoon now felt charged with tension. The lingering echoes of Vanessa's words hanging heavy in the air.
Engagement?
Amelia repeated, her voice soft yet trembling with disbelief. Her gaze searched Alexander's, desperate for an explanation that made sense of the situation.
She's your ex?
Alexander sighed deeply, the weight of regret etched into his features.
Yes, but it was over a long time ago. I didn't think it was relevant to bring up.
He admitted reluctantly. Amelia's expression shifted from confusion to hurt, her voice shaking as she responded.
Not relevant. Alexander, she just humiliated me. She made it very clear that she still sees herself as part of your life. And I had to find out, like this? How could you not tell me?
Alexander reached for her hand, but she pulled away.
Amelia, listen, I never wanted to hurt you. Vanessa, she's manipulative. And our relationship ended because of who she is, not because of any lingering feelings.
But Amelia shook her head, the sting of betrayal too raw to process. Without another word, she got up and walked away, her heart aching as she left Alexander alone at the table. Back in the sanctuary of her hotel room, she replayed the confrontation in her mind, anger mingling with sadness. The days that followed were strained, every interaction between them overshadowed by tension. Vanessa's presence only made matters worse. As if summoned by the drama, she seemed to appear everywhere they went, at the cafe, in the market, even during their evening walks. Each encounter was laced with subtle barbs aimed at Amelia, veiled in faux pleasantries and smug smiles.
Alexander, you must miss the way we used to travel together.
Vanessa would purr, her voice dripping with mock sincerity.
Our trips were always so sophisticated. I can't imagine how different things must be now.
Amelia bit her tongue through these moments, unwilling to stoop to Vanessa's level, but the constant jabs were like tiny cuts, each one stinging more than the last. Alexander, aware of her growing frustration, tried to shield her from Vanessa's venom, but it was clear the situation was taking a toll on both of them. One evening, after yet another run-in with Vanessa at a local art gallery, Amelia couldn't hold back her feelings any longer.
Why is she always here?
She demanded, her voice sharp as they returned to the hotel.
Does she follow you around for sport, or is she genuinely incapable of moving on?
Alexander looked exhausted, his usual calm demeanor fraying at the edges.
I don't know why she's doing this, but I do know it's my fault for not being honest with you from the start. I should have told you about Vanessa and what happened between us.
Amelia crossed her arms, her expression skeptical.
And what exactly did happen, Alexander? Because all I see is a woman who thinks she still has a claim on you.
Taking a deep breath, Alexander finally opened up, his voice heavy with emotion.
Vanessa and I were engaged, yes. But it wasn't love, not really. She wanted the status and the lifestyle, and I was too blind to see it at first. Everything she did was calculated, from the way she treated people to how she manipulated me. When I finally realized who she truly was, I ended it. She didn't take it well, and since then, she's made it her mission to remind me of what I walked away from.
Amelia softened slightly, her curiosity piqued despite herself.
Why didn't you tell me this before?
Because I didn't want to burden you with my mistakes.
Alexander admitted, his voice breaking.
You've been through enough. I wanted to protect you from her, not let her drag you into this mess.
Amelia's heart ached at the vulnerability in his voice, but the sting of his omission still lingered.
I just wish you trusted me enough to tell me.
She said quietly, looking away. Alexander stepped closer, his eyes earnest.
I do trust you, Amelia. That's why I'm telling you everything now. Please, don't let Vanessa ruin what we have.
Amelia felt the tension grow as she tried to decide between holding on to the past or looking ahead to something better. Despite Alexander's efforts to make things right, the damage was done. Amelia found herself struggling to reconcile her feelings for him with the new revelations that had been exposed. The secrets he had kept were weighing heavily on her heart, making it harder to trust him completely. Every conversation seemed to reveal more about his past, the challenges he faced building his empire, the mistakes he made along the way, and the people who had been hurt by his decisions. It was clear to Amelia that Alexander was trying to be transparent, but with each new truth, the walls between them grew higher. His openness was appreciated, but it also left her questioning everything she thought she knew about him. Despite this, she couldn't ignore the sincerity in his eyes or the way he genuinely wanted to make things right. She could see his determination, and it made her want to believe in him again. The tension between them continued to simmer, but they did their best to move forward. However, the real test came when they returned home. Alexander had hoped that the worst was behind them, but he couldn't have been more wrong. Vanessa, with her sharp tongue and manipulative nature, wasn't about to let go so easily. A few days after their return, a bombshell interview aired. Vanessa sat on a plush sofa, her eyes glistening with fake crocodile tears as she recounted her tragic love story with Alexander. She spoke of their passionate relationship, painting herself as the heartbroken ex-fiancée who had been unjustly replaced by Amelia. Her words dripped with so much venom that it felt like she was trying to rewrite history to suit her narrative.
I loved Alexander deeply.
Vanessa sobbed, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief as if on cue.
But I was never enough for him, and now this woman, this Amelia, has come into our lives and torn us apart. She's nothing more than a side chick who's taken what was rightfully mine.
Her words were like daggers, each one cutting deeper as she went on, her voice gaining strength.
I just want to make it clear that Alexander and I were in love. We were supposed to get married, but then this woman came in and everything changed. Alexander has allowed her to ruin everything we had. I will always be his true love, no matter what she thinks.
The interview had all the makings of a soap opera, and it wasn't long before it went viral. Fans of Vanessa, and even those who were merely curious, flooded the internet with their opinions. Suddenly, Amelia found herself under a harsh spotlight. She was ridiculed, insulted, and accused of being the villain in a story she had never even been part of. As the backlash grew, the effects spilled over into her real life. People on the streets would glare at her, whispering as they passed. She received hateful comments online, some even calling for her to leave Alexander. The worst of it came when her mother, Clara, started receiving threatening messages from strangers, some even showing up at their home demanding to speak with Amelia. It was as if the world had suddenly turned against them. Clara, who had fought so hard to keep Amelia safe from harm, was now the target of venomous comments and online harassment. The weight of it all felt unbearable. Amelia spent sleepless nights scrolling through the hateful messages, each one more hurtful than the last. Despite her attempts to stay strong, the constant barrage of negativity made it hard to hold her head up high. All she could do was turn to God for help.
Amelia, don't listen to them.
Clara said one evening, her voice calm yet filled with concern.
You know who you are in Christ. You don't need to prove anything to anyone.
Amelia knew her mother was right, but the world had painted her as the villain, and the more she thought about Vanessa's accusations, the more she doubted her place in Alexander's life. Was she truly the one he loved, or was she just another person caught in the crossfire of his past? Alexander tried his best to shield Amelia from the storm, but even his wealth and influence couldn't stop the chaos that Vanessa had set into motion. Every time he tried to reassure her, Amelia felt a little less certain. The tension between them grew, and the cracks in their relationship seemed to widen. Yet, deep down, Amelia still loved him. But the question remained, was love enough to weather this storm? Alexander, determined to protect Amelia and salvage their reputation, refused to let Vanessa's lies fester any longer. He understood that silence would only allow her manipulations to grow unchecked, so he took a bold step forward. Calling a press conference at his company's headquarters, he decided it was time to confront the situation head-on. The room was packed with reporters, cameras flashing as Alexander walked onto the stage, his expression calm but resolute. Dressed in a sharp suit, he exuded authority, but his eyes betrayed a deeper determination. Amelia watched from a side room, her heart pounding as she clutched Clara's hand. This wasn't just a fight for their relationship, it was a fight for the truth. Alexander began by addressing the rumors head-on.
Over the past weeks, my private life has been dragged into the spotlight under false pretenses. I want to make one thing clear. The person I love and respect is Amelia. She has been unfairly targeted by baseless accusations, and I will not stand by while her character is tarnished.
The room buzzed with murmurs, but Alexander didn't falter. He gestured to a large screen behind him, which flickered to life with a series of documents, videos, and testimonials.
The individual making these claims, Vanessa Moore, has a history of deceit and manipulation. Allow me to present the facts.
First, he displayed legal documents revealing Vanessa's involvement in a string of fraudulent business schemes. Transactions tied to embezzlement, forgery, and other financial crimes were laid bare for the world to see. Then came a series of recorded conversations, Vanessa's voice unmistakable, boasting about her ability to manipulate people for personal gain.
This is the truth about the person accusing Amelia of wrongdoing. Vanessa's actions are not only malicious, but calculated attempts to gain sympathy and deflect attention from her own misconduct.
The most damning evidence came next. A former associate of Vanessa appeared in a pre-recorded interview, speaking about her relentless ambition and how she often targeted successful men to elevate her status.
Vanessa always knew how to twist a narrative. She thrives on chaos and will do whatever it takes to stay relevant.
As the evidence piled up, the room grew quieter. Reporters, once eager to sensationalize Vanessa's claims, now scribbled furiously as the truth unraveled. Alexander ended his presentation with a poignant statement.
I regret ever allowing someone like Vanessa into my life, but I will not allow her lies to harm the people I care about. Amelia is my future, and no one will take that from us.
The fallout was immediate and unforgiving for Vanessa. The public, once eager to buy into her sob story, quickly turned against her. Social media erupted with outrage as clips from the press conference went viral. Hashtags like #JusticeForAmelia and #ExposingVanessa trended for days. News outlets that had previously sympathized with Vanessa now dissected her scandals, revealing a career built on manipulation and dishonesty. Vanessa, once the darling of the tabloids, found herself isolated and disgraced. Brands that had partnered with her cut ties, and lucrative deals evaporated overnight. Former friends and colleagues came forward with more stories of her deceit, further cementing her downfall. Amelia watched it all unfold with a mix of relief and disbelief. When she saw him after the press conference, it was later in the day in the place they first met, the Grand Library.
Thank you.
She said softly, tears welling in her eyes. Alexander stepped closer, his gaze unwavering.
We thank God. I did it because I love you, Amelia, and because you deserve to live free from the shadows of my past. Vanessa's lies were never about us. They were about her. And now the world knows the truth.
Their embrace that day felt like a turning point. Just as Alexander and Amelia began to find peace, a new storm loomed on the horizon. One evening, as Alexander sat in his study reviewing paperwork, his phone buzzed with a notification. It was an anonymous message. The words were brief but chilling.
Call off your engagement or the world will know the truth about your business. We're watching. Don't make us prove it.
Attached to the message was a photograph of Amelia walking with Clara, her arm protectively around her mother. The angle suggested it had been taken from a distance, possibly without their knowledge. Alexander's blood ran cold. Whoever had sent the message wasn't bluffing. They had been watching Amelia closely enough to capture her during an innocent moment. Alexander leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. He reread the message several times, dissecting its intent. The words were vague but heavy with implication. What truth were they referring to? Over the years, Alexander had built his business empire with relentless determination, trust, and direction from God, but he had made enemies along the way. Competitors, disgruntled former partners, and those jealous of his success all came to mind. But this wasn't just about him. The fact that they had targeted Amelia made his blood boil. She had done nothing to deserve this. The image of her walking with Clara, oblivious to the hidden threat, only solidified his resolve. Whoever was behind this wasn't just trying to hurt him. They wanted to drag Amelia into a game she never signed up for. He immediately called his head of security, detailing the threat and instructing them to increase surveillance around Amelia and Clara.
I want every angle covered. No one gets near them without us knowing.
Later the next evening, Alexander sat Amelia down in his living room. The soft glow of the fireplace did little to ease the tension in the air. He handed her his phone, letting her read the message for herself. Her expression shifted from confusion to shock, then to anger.
They're watching us? Alexander, who would do something like this?
Amelia placed the phone down, her hands trembling slightly.
But what about the threat? They're implying you have something to hide. Is there any truth to it?
Alexander hesitated for the briefest moment, his gaze steady.
Every empire has its cracks, Amelia. I've had to follow God to get where I am, but I've never done anything illegal or unethical. Whoever this is, they're preying on lies to manipulate me.
Amelia nodded, though her worry was evident.
I trust you, but this is slightly terrifying. They're not just after you, they're coming after us.
He reached for her hand, squeezing it gently.
That's why I need you to trust God, Amelia. We've faced worse before. Together, we'll get through this.
The days that followed were a whirlwind. Alexander's security team worked tirelessly to trace the source of the threat, but whoever had sent the message was skilled at covering their tracks. Meanwhile, Alexander kept a calm exterior in public, attending meetings and maintaining his usual routines, though inwardly, he was constantly on edge. Amelia, too, tried to keep her life as normal as possible, though the unease lingered. She took extra precautions, always looking over her shoulder. Clara, sensing the tension but unaware of the details, quietly supported her daughter, offering words of encouragement when Amelia felt overwhelmed. The tension reached a boiling point one evening when another message arrived. This time, it included a short video clip. It showed Alexander at a board meeting from years ago, arguing with a former partner who had later accused him of underhanded tactics. The clip, taken out of context, painted Alexander in a bad light. The accompanying message read,
This is just the beginning. Break it off or the world will see more. They think they can blackmail me with edited footage. They've underestimated who they're dealing with.
Whoever was behind this wasn't just a disgruntled rival, they were methodical and intent on destruction. The message spurred Alexander and Amelia into action, making the couple to work as a team. Days in Alexander's study became the norm, where they sifted through old records, scrutinized correspondence, and pieced together clues. Though the situation was dire, the moments they shared, Alexander's dry humor breaking Amelia's tension and her unwavering determination inspiring him, strengthened their bond. Amelia often paused to check on her mother, Clara, who remained blissfully unaware of the true depth of the crisis. Alexander had insisted on keeping Clara's safety a top priority, ensuring that security accompanied her everywhere without revealing the full danger they faced. Clara's sharp intuition occasionally led her to question the added precautions. But Amelia brushed it off with reassurances that Alexander simply cared deeply about her safety. The breakthrough came one evening when one of Alexander's most trusted allies, William, a cybersecurity expert and childhood friend, called with a lead.
We've traced the source of the messages to an encrypted account. It belongs to someone who once worked for you, Alex. A man named Gregor Kane.
Alexander's face darkened at the name.
Gregor Kane? He worked in the finance department years ago. I fired him for embezzlement.
William nodded grimly.
He didn't take it well. From what I've dug up, he's been nursing a grudge ever since. But here's the kicker. He's a die-hard supporter of Vanessa. Looks like he's been helping her behind the scenes, hoping to win her favor.
Amelia's heart sank at the revelation. Vanessa's web of deceit had extended further than they'd imagined.
So he's not just targeting Alexander, he's doing this for her?
She asked.
Exactly. But don't worry. We've got enough evidence to shut him down. I've collected records of his online activities, including his attempts to hack into Alexander's systems. It's airtight.
With this information in hand, Alexander wasted no time. He arranged a meeting with law enforcement and provided them with the evidence William had uncovered. Armed with proof of Gregor's crimes, they moved quickly to apprehend him. The confrontation, however, was inevitable. Alexander insisted on being there when Gregor was confronted. The two men faced off in a tense meeting arranged at Alexander's office, with law enforcement nearby to ensure everyone's safety. Gregor's smug demeanor faltered the moment Alexander presented the evidence against him, screenshots of his threats, financial records proving his embezzlement, and messages exchanged with Vanessa.
You thought you could get away with this? You betrayed my trust, and now you're threatening my family. Did you really think I wouldn't fight back?
Gregor sneered, but his bravado was slipping.
You ruined my life when you fired me. Vanessa understood that. She believed in me.
Alexander's expression didn't waver.
Vanessa doesn't believe in anyone but herself. She used you, Gregor, and now you're gonna pay for your mistakes.
With no room to deny his guilt, Gregor was taken into custody. The evidence against him was irrefutable, and Alexander ensured the case received the necessary attention to prevent any further harm. Back at the estate, Amelia sat with Clara in the garden, the late afternoon sun casting a warm glow over their surroundings. Clara, ever perceptive, sensed the weight that had lifted from her daughter's shoulders.
You've been carrying something heavy, but you look lighter now.
Amelia smiled, reaching out to hold her mother's hand.
It's over, Mom, and I'm grateful to God that no one can hurt us anymore.
Clara gave her a knowing look but didn't press further.
You've always been strong, Amelia. I hope Alexander knows how blessed he is.
Inside the house, Alexander joined them, his usual composed demeanor softening as he approached.
Mom, I thought you might like some tea. Amelia mentioned it's your favorite blend.
Clara raised an eyebrow, but accepted the gesture with a smile.
You're starting to grow on me, Alexander.
Alexander chuckled, glancing at Amelia with a fondness that didn't go unnoticed.
I'll take that as a compliment.
They all smiled, and for the first time in weeks, they allowed themselves a moment of peace. Later that evening, as the last of the golden sunlight dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the estate, Alexander found himself pulling Amelia aside just before she and Clara were about to leave for the night. His heart weighed heavy with the unspoken words that had been lingering for too long.
Amelia, I need to apologize. I'm so sorry for the pain I've caused you. I should have been honest with you from the start. I never wanted to hurt you, and I see now how much my secrets have strained everything.
Amelia, who had been so strong throughout it all, turned to face him. Her heart was a mixture of emotions, love, hurt, and a longing for peace. She gently cupped his face in her hands, her touch tender but firm.
I forgive you, Alexander, but promise me something.
She said, her eyes searching his.
Promise me that no more secrets will come between us. Jesus and truth have to be the foundation of everything we build together.
Alexander's chest tightened at her words, his heart swelling with the depth of her wisdom. He took her hands in his thumb brushing over her knuckles.
I promise, you and your mom mean everything to me. I will never let anything come between us again.
In that moment, under the soft light of the garden lamps, they both knew that the path ahead would be filled with challenges. But their love was stronger now, built not on the illusion of perfection, but on a foundation of trust, honesty, and faith. As they stood there, Amelia's head resting gently against Alexander's chest, she whispered,
We'll build something beautiful, Alexander. Together.
I love you.
I love you too.
They smiled with the knowledge that the world ahead of them seemed filled with endless possibilities, waiting to be explored, one honest step at a time.